Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Allen, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Nikki Coleman. We warmly welcome Group Captain Ernie Walsh, President of the Air Force Association, ACT Division. We also warmly welcome the Frank McDonald Memorial Prize delegation from Tasmania. The Frank McDonald Prize is an essay-based competition open to all Year 9 students in Tasmania. It aims to promote and preserve the meaning of the Anzac spirit in the Tasmanian community and is named in honour of Tasmania's last surviving First World War veteran. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Pilot Officer Herbert Alexander Watson Parkinson, who was killed during the Second World War. Herbert Parkinson was born on the 24th of March 1924 in Cantanning, Western Australia, to Archie and Estelle Parkinson. His father was a farmer who had served as a sapper in France in the 3rd Field Company. The family moved to New South Wales when Parkinson was young, and he attended Castle Hill Public School, Westmead Technical College and Granville Technical College. Parkinson was employed as a process worker with the E.M. Baldwin and Sons in Castle Hill, New South Wales. On the 25th of April 1942, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force, aged 18. He was trained as a pilot and received his wings in April 1943 with the rank of sergeant. On the 2nd of November 1942, Parkinson embarked for overseas service from Melbourne, arriving in Canada at the end of the month. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners and flight engineers who throughout the course of the war joined the Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. Parkinson underwent months of training in Canada. In May 1943, he left Canada for the United Kingdom, and in October 1943 was promoted to flight sergeant. Further specialist training followed in England, and in April 1944, Parkinson was promoted to pilot officer. On the 11th of May, he was posted to number 467 Squadron, RAAF. As part of Bomber Command, the squadron flew the 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bomber. On the 8th of June, Bomber Command launched a bombing raid on the railways of Rennes in France. Parkinson was the pilot of his Lancaster, which took off just after 11 p.m. The mission was a success, and the crew were on their way back to Lincolnshire when bad weather forced them to be diverted to airfields at Catfoss in Yorkshire. However, cloud cover there was heavy as well, and more than one aircraft crashed while trying to locate the airfield. Parkinson's aircraft was waiting in the landing circuit when, in poor visibility, just before 4 a.m. on the 9th of June, it struck a tree and crashed into the ground near Woodhouse Farm. Killed in the crash were Australian Flight Sergeants Richard Cottu and Sydney Merrin, and British Sergeants Stanley Ward and Melrose Vance. Australian Pilot Officer Herbert Parkinson and British Sergeant Thomas Collin died of their wounds in a matter of hours after the crash. The only survivor was Australian Flight Sergeant Nissen Mossenson. Herbert Parkinson was buried with his Australian crewmates at the Harrogate Stonefall Cemetery in Yorkshire under the inscription, "To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die." He was 20 years old. The Castle Hill District RSL flew its flag at half-mast to commemorate his death. Pilot Officer Herbert Parkinson's name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, along with some 40,000 others from the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Pilot Officer Herbert Parkinson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in hope of a better world. Pardon me? Apologies.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
Sky, come. Yep. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.